Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to the Singapore Injustice Podcast. I'm one of the co-hosts, Kush, and this is Max, and today we're going to be taking a brief look into some of the injustices in Singapore for this series. Our CAST project is fulfilling the need for bringing awareness and informing members of our community about injustice in Singapore. Because when you look at Singapore, you don't really think about injustice. You think of it as a developed nation, which sort of makes it really bad on the people that do need help. So that's what we're going to be focusing on. We believe that as citizens of Singapore, whether ignorantly or accidentally, we look past the injustice that happens on a regular basis. So we're going to aim to ensure that the injustice at CIS and in our community is brought to light. And we're going to be focusing on 2 organizations each week. I'll pick one organization, Max will pick an organization, and
today we're gonna start off with Kush's. So every single week we're gonna choose an issue or topic or article that we're gonna discuss, and we're going to talk about it. We're going to have a discussion about it. We're going to discuss what CIS students could do to help the issue, and basically our main function is to bring the problems and injustices such as the ones that we're going to talk about into the light, which we feel like hasn't happened enough recently and or ever, because Singapore is very
and it's a good way to find any CAST activities that you can be doing if you listen to our podcast. I know some of you might find it very difficult to volunteer or do any creativity or service during the COVID period, but
they're out there.
Yeah, they're out there, and not many people know about it, and it's our job to inform you about it.
Okay, so today is Friday the 18th episode, and we're going to start off with Kush's article. It's Raining Raincoats.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So, It's Raining Raincoats is a organization aimed to better migrant workers. Now, as you can see, during the COVID period, a lot of the cases have been in migrant worker dormitories, and it's been brought to light about how horrible the conditions are living in there. You know, like everyone's so close together. We've seen some pictures that come to light recently. So this organization's been existing since 2015. It's been founded by someone that many people call a very nice lady, and she's given her personal number to every single migrant worker in Singapore. So if you're a migrant worker and you have any trouble, just call her up.
Wouldn't her line be like completely full of calls the whole time?
I don't know, but she's doing very well.
So is she part of an organization, any particular organization?
Yeah.
So
It's Raining Raincoats. That's what she's first started off by like being someone really chill, like a friend of all the migrant workers, giving her number, and now she's built it onto this entire organization.
cool. So tell me more about It's Raining Raincoats and the whole situation.
So they focus on minor to major solutions, like on their Facebook page, which is mainly where they connect with their audience. They give a lot of posts about ideas for helping migrant workers, which we'll come back to because that's where you can see a lot of CAST opportunities. And you can also see like some news about what they do. Like a couple of days ago, they found some migrant workers working really hard, so they bought some bottles of water, something really small but means a lot.
Yeah, because I can imagine that one issue that migrant workers and workers might face is the dehumanizing aspect of spent doing hard labor every single day, and the average Singaporean or foreigner just walking past you as if you don't exist. And I can imagine that a simple act, like if someone does something that simple and that just out of the pureness and the kindness out of their hearts, it's not only the physical thing that they get, it's not only the bottle of water that they receive a sign of I matter in this world. And like I think that's it counts a lot towards emotional and mental support. And I can imagine that if you feel like you're doing your job and a slight emptiness in your life because people don't acknowledge your existence, I can totally imagine that simple acts like these, just for someone to acknowledge that you do the work that you do by, for example, what you said, just simply buying something very cheap that doesn't really actually practically mean that much. I think that it might. I think that it more often than not has more value than people might expect.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And now it's not just ignoring migrant workers. People are. I read recently an article that people are avoiding migrant workers because apparently there's been a prejudice like, oh, migrant worker probably has COVID.
I've heard. Actually, I have first-hand experience with this. When I was on the MRT, I think a few weeks back. As you know, Singaporeans take social distancing fairly strictly, and they really try their best to adhere to the rules, and even unwritten rules, just like they even though it's not said, some Singaporeans still adhere to some unwritten rules that they think might better the situation. For example, on the MRTs when it's not that busy, people automatically space themselves one seat apart, so there's always a one seat space between everyone. And as soon as it gets a little busier, granted, those spaces do fill up. But when it's not busy and when there's not too many people that people need to sit down, Singaporeans in general, I've seen, always try their best to space themselves out. So basically, a month ago, I was on the MRT and I saw it was right on the brink between spacing out and not spacing out. So there were some spaces purposely left between people, but some spaces had already been filled up because it was starting to get a little busy. And I saw that these three Singaporeans, I don't remember exactly what they look like, but these three Singaporeans, I remember seeing it and thinking these people are clearly Singaporeans. These three Singaporeans, two Singaporeans and one foreigner actually, they were sitting right next to each other, and right beside the one all the way on the left and right beside the one all the way on the right, there was a space. So there was a space, three people, and another space.
Mm-hmm.
So then, each of those three people obviously knew it was okay. Like they were okay with having someone sit next to them. Then I watched a migrant worker get onto the MRT and sit next to one of them. So then, instead of three people and two spaces on each side, there were four people with only one space on the side. That person that was formerly on the edge, now between two people, between the migrant worker and the other person, stood up.
Yeah.
So this person thought it was okay to sit next to someone, but as soon as the migrant worker sits next to him or her,
yeah, and you don't know what kind of impact that'll have on someone.
I think that that's very painful. Like aside from, because practically it's not that big a deal.
Exactly.
But the dehumanizing aspect of it, I can't even imagine what it might be like to go through what these people go through.
Imagine like they've already had so much physical stress. Obviously, we've seen their rooms and everything, and now when you think about the mental health as well, with normal people treating them like they're not human, as you've said. So let's go into our next segment about a little more into Singapore's mindset on migrant workers, which is what the main goal of It's Raining Raincoats is. They want to change the mindset that Singapore has on migrant workers, like the dehumanization, the dehumanizing aspect of it. So Singapore, like many countries in the world, has a sort of them versus us attitude with migrant workers. With the government, like inside the government with like laws, it's not really clear, but when you look at it through our society, you can see the changes and the imbalance between migrant workers and normal people in the society.
I feel like that's often like that. You know how every almost every developed country has that one populace that is seen to that is often of a lower economic class, social class, that does that do the low tier jobs, such as like maybe the like dishwasher in a restaurant or janitors. So you know how like most developed countries have that one group of whether it's like one ethnic group that is more often than not doing those types of jobs. In Singapore, it's both the helpers we see everywhere from the Philippines, Malaysia, and other Southeast Asian countries, and also these migrant workers, mostly from Bangladesh. I've also like I can imagine that the same thing that happens in Singapore, the them versus us attitude, also occurs in other developed countries where they also have a very clear populace that does these jobs that the natives of the country do less often. For example, in the UK, somewhere in the I think I'm not 100% sure about this, but in the 80s or something, those immigration flaw there was a flaw in the immigration rules or something that that allowed many because of I don't know exactly what because, but it allowed many Polish people to migrate to the UK. Or I think it was the 90s or something, and so then in that time period, um, people would if you were to hire someone to fix your door or to fix a light bulb, a guy of Polish descent would come to your house and fix that for you. So I can imagine that like those groups of people in countries such as the UK then, or people from South America in the US now, often experience a them versus us attitude because the people of the host country often think that because they have a higher economic or social standard than the people that migrated to their country, they feel like they're above them. I feel like that's exactly what happens in Singapore.
And like over time, like as years go on and you see the same like Polish descent that comes to fix your door and everything, it sort of builds up into something else.
Yeah.
Slowly develops into.
If you're a young boy and you see your father
Yeah, exactly.
do that, then I think that slowly gets ingrained into the culture. And sadly, I think that that's happened to Singapore, just like it has happened to countless other developed countries.
We have to keep in note like how these migrant workers are people too. They have a family, usually back in their home country where they send all their money to. So they're doing a lot of work for their family just to keep them.
I think that's if anything, people should respect. I hold these people these people that dedicate their lives to the well-being of their family back home by enduring who knows what. I think that's completely like I think that situations such as those deserve our utmost respect, and like I think it's sad for yeah them not to get the respect that they deserve.
So that'll lead us on into not a nice story, but a story nonetheless about a migrant worker in Singapore. So imagine you're a migrant worker here, your family, so a pregnant wife and two kids, all back in India,
Mhm.
and
You're
you're working
a
here.
pregnant wife and two kids.
Exactly.
So there's 3 kids soon.
3 kids soon, and you're in Singapore, and a couple days go by, a couple years, they turn into years. You're doing well. One day you get some stomach pain. So this is the story of Thanabal Suresh, a 39-year-old worker here. After he got the stomach pain, he went to the hospital, which is obviously cost a lot. So it must have been some crazy pain for him to go to the hospital because, like, you don't have a lot of money. You send it all back to your family back in your home. So you're inclined to like leave it and see if it'll get better on its own. So he's left it like that for a couple
That's
months.
dangerous. Right?
Yeah, exactly. So eventually he goes to the hospital, and guess what he gets diagnosed by? Terminal cancer. So that's a lot to take. So he
So
went.
so he left it alone for like a year,
Yeah.
or some extended period of time, and he just had cancer.
And he used his phone a friend to It's Raining Raincoats founder. He called her, He told her everything about it, and they started a Give.Asia charity page. Like together, Give.Asia is like GoFundMe, but for Singapore and in Asia. So, oh wow! So they created a Give.Asia donation. Right now, I'm looking at the page. A couple days ago, it was at 34,000 raised for
Wow.
Thanabal Suresh.
So what is it now?
It's now already at 54,000 raised for this man. They've met their goal and they're exceeding it. So this was posted on their Facebook page, and just like 2 days ago, 3 days ago, when I saw this first, it was at 34,000. Now it's at 54,000. So you can see,
Wow.
you can see about what he's doing with his family.
That's great that people donate to such causes like that. That really makes me. That really puts some hope for me. That puts some more hope in humanity because.
Yeah, so here's what the doctors first wrote up about Thanabal Suresh. They say, "Thank you for seeing this patient. This is a 39-year-old gentleman with no past medical history. So this is like one of the first times he's had anything. Yeah, this is the first time. He said he had some abdominal pain, and a summary found that he had terminal cancer. So obviously, what he's chosen to do is give all that money to his family, and maybe spend a little bit of it just to live a couple months longer, if that's possible.
I thought that it was for. I thought that the money was for his treatment.
It's not. It can't. It's unfortunately it's still too little, too
late.
Yeah, too little, too
Oh,
late,
wow.
and too little money for what he has, which is
Oh, wow.
really, really terrible. So,
But I think that's like the ultimate selfless deed. He literally is giving up the opportunity to live more years
yeah,
to be able to support his family. Because I think that without this money, his family wouldn't be able to sustain themselves.
no. But like I'm from India, so I know how it is, and what they've raised so far is a lot,
More
and
than
it will change the lives of his family.
I can imagine because $50,000 is already a lot in Singapore, and I can imagine that
It's a lot more
Yeah.
in India.
I think that that's amazing because these random people that think about thankfully have enough empathy to do such a deed have 54,000 you said.
Yeah.
Wow, it's fascinating. Do they tell you anything about how big the donations were? Because that's pretty interesting.
Well, there were 709 people that donated. If I do a quick
It's
calculation,
average of
$76 per
That's
donor.
very high.
Yeah. and
Wow.
Keep in mind, these donators don't know about Thanabal Suresh. So, I mean, we've talked
They
about
know,
how
they chose that to donate to him, right?
they don't know him personally,
Yeah, of
but
course.
yeah. So we talked about how Singapore sort of has the them versus us attitude, but Singapore's also has this attitude where it's also very, very generous.
Yeah, I think that
Yeah.
of course with like you could say something bad, you can say something like general negative statement about the country, but of course there are still people, thousands of people out there that still have the empathy, the understanding, and that capability to still be able to give
Exactly.
54,000. So wait, so when did you check it last?
Like 2 days ago, it was 34,000.
No, yeah, okay, 38,000.
So
you were
10,000 a day.
10,000 in a day. Wow. So does it say when it got posted?
Well, on Facebook, it was posted a while ago. So I'm thinking maybe the story was reposted on their Facebook page. It was like 2 weeks old, a bit older than that maybe. Look at that. A lot of nice comments about him. Here, someone writes, "It's hard to digest a life without a father. The kids back in India need education, food, life support. We lose money in our lives, like people that are privileged, and we don't really look past it. We're like, okay, whatever. But for people that are in need, it means a lot, and it should make it does make privileged people happy to donate because that money is going for a good cause to someone that needs it even more.
More. Yeah.
So
It's a fascinating story because I think that's both both beauty and a curse because the story itself it's incredibly sad that um, that Tanaba Suresh had
Yeah.
to had to
face that.
had to face this. I think that's unimaginable. I can't imagine going through something like that or having a family member going through that. But then again, here we see that even regardless of a general attitude being negative towards people that come here to help their families, such as migrant workers.
Mm.
Regardless of that attitude, people still come together to achieve something, and I think that's pretty fascinating.
Yeah.
$54,000. You said $72,000. $72 per average donation.
Yeah.
I think that's very high for an. I think that's relatively high because I would expect like $20 or $30 to see that half the you could technically you could say half the people donated more than $80, which I think is pretty cool too.
Yeah, and you can donate. One of our listeners, if you're listening, we'll put this in our YouTube description. So if you're interested in helping Thanabal Suresh's family, and maybe even him, who knows what life will bring Thanabal in the
and
future.
who knows how far over the goal
Yeah.
this is gonna reach. So maybe he'll be able to fund his own care.
And people like him deserve it. Imagine working your life so hard. He doesn't deserve what happened to him. Maybe this is like a small light in what's been a very dark few years for Thanabal Suresh.
Mhm. Yeah.
That'll lead us into our final segment on It's Raining Raincoats. And after this, we'll move on to Max's article. We're going to be talking about some CAS opportunities for CIS students. So, firstly, there's a website link where you can find some activities that you can do for It's Raining Raincoats. We'll put this in our YouTube description as well. rayofhope.sg. So once you visit this website, you can see a lot of opportunities for volunteering for It's Raining Raincoats. And they don't have anything set in stone like what they want to do, but every once in a while they put something up like one day, a couple hours, we just help out migrant workers, help them rearrange their rooms or cleaning, something like that, because that's something that's been recently done in the It's Raining Raincoats campaign. They recently visited a migrant working dormitory and they bought some fair price everyday goods like toothpaste, soap, all of the necessities, and they gave that. And that'll be really good service. It'll give you a lot of global ethics, like the goal, the service action goal on ethics.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to say about that, and I think that it has extremely strong links with exactly that United Nations, and I think that it strong connections with the United Nations goals that we're constantly told to relate our service, CAS and service and action activities and services to, and also of course the CAS service and action goals themselves.
And when IB created CAS, when they thought it up, this is what they want. This is what they had in mind. Something like this.
So like if any of the listeners still need or want to, out of the kindness of their hearts,
they can
spend some time helping other people and doing some good, then go into the description of this this
YouTube
podcast, this YouTube podcast,
Yeah.
and click on the link that says rayofhope.sg, and you'll be able to orient yourself around It's Raining Raincoats Foundation. So do you have any idea where that name comes from? It's Raining Raincoats.
Yes, so originally the foundation was built on migrant workers working in heavy thunderstorms and rain. When it's raining, a lot of us just go back inside, but that's not the case for migrant workers.
Because if they do that, they don't get paid.
Yeah, and like in a construction site, all of that. So the founder created this where they initially started off with the initiative of just giving raincoats and umbrellas to migrant workers who are working, and that's how it blossomed into something much bigger. And recently, in this past few months, they've been arranging thousands of meals, providing care packs, data card top ups, and essentials to tens of thousands of migrant workers due to the COVID 19 outbreak.